So at this point, yeah, I'd like to invite the speakers to rejoin, only the speakers to have their cameras on, please. And we'll go into a little bit of discussion about the practical sides of how do you do it, how do you bring customers on board, and where do we go in the future with this to make it a real true global movement. So if anyone's got any questions, please raise your digital hands or put the questions in the chat. But I'm going to kind of kickstart this with a question about what are the biggest challenges for a service provider in setting up an impact sourcing program. So Dan, you've been in this the longest. You've probably seen it from the very beginning, and I imagine the challenges were different then than what they are today. But what are the challenges right now for setting up an impact sourcing program?
First and foremost, bulletproof data security. I think that is the new 70–80% of the challenges. It's no longer communications technologies and things like that, but buying market expects zero fraud and absolute data privacy, way beyond what we would consider standard. So I think that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, anybody like to build on that? Andres, what do you see? You're on mute, Andres.
Thanks. I fully agree on that. Privacy is a key factor on this, but also is what has helped us a lot is to create a network around impact sourcing. Not only those people to be on their own, being part of a company, but also to give them their place and to let people know that we embrace that concept, but also a network in which they are recognized, in which they are valued by everything they put on the table and they bring to the company, and let them be mentors, let them be mentees, let them be part of every single piece of our program of the company, because in essence, that is what we are striving for. We are trying to make them part of this whole concept. So open doors in every single concept, and being part of a huge community. No walls in between, nothing else, and of course being really respectful of their own beliefs and tense,
Okay, great. So over to you, Matt. What barriers have you received from customers in the adoption of impact sourcing?
Yeah, so I'll answer that question in kind of echoing what Dan and Andres said. I think that when we're looking at impact sourcing, what we're doing is applying all the lessons that we've learned. It's over the decades through offshoring and outsourcing. So the security concerns, the cultural challenges that we have to be mindful of, and supporting the staff and giving them opportunities to develop. These are always things that we have had to tackle and find solutions for. I think with impact sourcing, it's an opportunity to really utilize all those lessons and apply them all. And it just kind of emphasizes the need for all of that. In terms of barriers, obviously it's another step. It's getting closer to the edge of the envelope, if you like, for certain organizations that might not have thought about going some of the locations or actually having sort of purposeful sourcing at the heart of what they're doing. We have tended to bring existing customers on that journey, so you've already got that trust built into the relationship. But obviously we also have to have ISO 27000 certification, HIPAA compliance, all those normal things, coming back to Dan's point about security, to make everybody comfortable that they can trust the environment. So it is more challenging, but there's ways to develop that trust.
I'd add to that point, Gary, that if I fast forward, we're in 2023 now. By 2030, we believe there will be a fairly standard global service provider network, which we don't see today. It's all individual companies, and I think that puts a unfair advantage on scale players. Many of the customers in our portfolio would love to do business with pure play impact sourcing providers all over the globe, but these companies have a little bit of a difficulty contracting with very large organizations, right? So I think once you have common data security, some standard operating procedures, the advent of the service provider network is going to explode. You can have 100 people sitting in New Guinea and 100 people sitting, 1,000 people sitting in New Jersey. Right? If everybody's using common technology, common standards, and they're able to contract.
Absolutely. That's a great vision. Absolutely great vision. So Otis, do you want to be part of that vision? What challenges are you experiencing from perhaps partnering in with some of the bigger service providers at the moment?
Thanks, Gary. I just wanted to add to to the previous question, and then I can respond to this particular one. I think one of the key things that I've seen is that when you're looking and dealing with people from diverse backgrounds, one of the key things is that you need to find a way to be able to provide that right framework of support for the people involved to be optimally productive. And if you recall, in my earlier slides, I mentioned that whole total person kind of holistic model. People will come, into the workplace with different social pressures, issues, challenges that they're having to deal with. Some are still young parents, others have got, financial pressures, debt issues, and so on. So you need to be able to provide a supportive kind of, framework, which enables the people still to be able to thrive at the end of the day and still be able to, contribute meaningfully when it comes to what they expected to do at the end of the day. And then to your question, I think the key thing is really around the exposure that the team is expected or is required to have when you engage with bigger players. They are also expecting to get people that have also been seasoned and well, given that opportunity to support or to work in other environments, so that at the end of the day, the learning curve is reduced, and also the productivity, you basically get that up and running within a short while. So part of what we do in this context is that within our group, because we are quite a big group, we therefore offer, some of our teams the opportunity to be seconded to some of our other businesses as a way to kind of give them that right level of exposure that gives them a different experience altogether. So we've got a bank, for example, within the group. We've got a technology company that rolls out fiber, that sells, products and services, overlay services, etc. So that then tends to kind of give somebody a well-rounded view of our operations as a group. By the time we also get to engage with some of our international partners, these guys have, been given the good foundation that they can then build upon as they go forward. Thanks, Gary.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of practical steps, say we've got an advisor on this webinar or, an enterprise buyer that really wants to bring impact sourcing into their delivery ecosystem. What advice would you give, or what are the practical steps that you think that they should take to actually start impact sourcing being part of their delivery system. So again, I'm going to go to you first, Dan, if I can.
Sorry, I was muted. That's a really good question, and you know, I don't have a really great answer for it. Maybe I can answer a little different way. I see at least 70% of the people that you know, are on the buying side of this phenomenon have a CSO now involved. So I think I think the monkey's out of the barrel, so to speak, or the jack's out of the box, whatever you want to use. And I think it's almost being demanded today. I believe that impact sourcing cannot be your lead card that you're playing. It's still a market that's based on domain expertise in something and availability of talent with some experience. I think the days of throwing people at problems and raw talent have passed us. So I guess you have to declare a major. You know, we're going to be in this market. We're focused on GSB. We're focused on CXM domain. I think those are more dominant than, you know, hey, I'm an impact sourcer and here's my community I serve. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I still think it's a capabilities and performance first market.
Okay, right, let's rephrase that and see if there's a different answer to it. And that is, so I'm an enterprise buyer and I really want to make sure there's impact sourcing in my ecosystem, my delivery system. Do I go to you, Sutherland, Teleperformance, ADEC, and do I say, right, let's co-build, let's partner and co-build an impact sourcing program, or does it not work that way? And you've got one ready-made that you're trying to sell to me as a buyer. What's the best practice?
I think it becomes part of, and this is definitely emerging or emerged amongst sophisticated and established buyers already, part of a general responsible sourcing or a purposeful supply chain program where the outcomes and the objectives are sort of clearly understood. You know, the purpose and what's trying to be achieved through their procurement strategies. There's a really interesting article about Unilever actually and their Partner with Purpose that was you guys published a few weeks ago. I think gives a good example of that. And I think through that, what I expect we'll see is exactly what Dan was talking about. You know, it's about competency, expertise, being able to demonstrate high levels of capability. But part of that capability, along with being able to deliver a great service, being able to secure data, is also going to be about walking the walk and being able to demonstrate that you're actually helping organizations with their ESG strategies and their procurement with purpose design outcomes. If that helps, does that answer the question?
I'll add another point that as you were talking, Matthew, hit me in the head. Strength, sustainability, and fairness are absolutely criteria now on buying side, at least in the selection process. When I say strength, the commitment of your leadership team and your operations to both social and environmental sustainability, fairness, ethical wages, advancement of people. Those are absolutely part of the selection process. And we are now beginning to see contract language, actual addendums to existing service agreements with both performance incentives on these elements and penalties, right? In a very financial sense. 3 strike rules. If you said you're going to do something and you don't, all these kind of things are coming into the contract process. But today, I believe it's all about, it's in the selection process, whether we're going to even consider doing business with you. And we're starting to see it in the contract process. 2 years ago, I used to tell Everest, I don't have a single contract where it's written in the power of the pen, impact sourcing, or even environmental, carbon disclosure. Now it's popping up. The topic comes up daily in my office. I think that's why I still have a job.
Excellent. I'm sure that's not the only reason, Dan, but Andres, any build on that?
Absolutely. I believe it is not only the company that is making the decision to be all into impact sourcing and the whole ESG mega chapter, but also companies are being asked to include by clients. They are being asked to be included by the responsible supply chains I was talking about, and we all agree on that. But most importantly, our workers are asking for that, are being part of that. The youngest are born with a different chip, if you allow me to say that, and they believe that impact sourcing, inclusion, environmental policies, everything is making a part of a bigger picture, not only of a business side, not only of an income opportunity, but a different future for them personally, individually, and their communities. So I believe the pressure, as Dan mentioned, is going to be felt, and within just a small number of years, we are going to see this is going to be the daily thing.
Yeah, absolutely,
Hygiene.
absolutely. So with that, there also comes great opportunity and huge excitement for the industry, but I think there also comes risk. So it's been a lot of chat in the media about greenwashing. Lots of organisations making out that they're being much more environmentally friendly than perhaps they really are. So is there risk of social washing or impact sourcing washing happening in our industry? And how do we actually help organisations to identify social washing and eradicate it, really? So Dan, I know that you're part of the global think tank that we're both part of to start driving impact sourcing forward. What's your
I think it's absolutely a thing. If I can digress, you see a lot of this in the former topic of CSR, right? There's almost a running joke. If you're doing blood drives and planting trees, it's probably not enough. I mean, they're great things, don't get me wrong. But, you can't go on, any major corporation's website today and not see, somebody trying to, demonstrate in their websites or on their social media virtuous behaviors. So I think that thin veil is could qualify as social washing or greenwashing. I believe that the potential to overplay your cards is there for sure. But at the same time, the rise of third-party verification organizations is and audits are a really big thing. And I'm not really just talking about ISO and some of the standards, but EcoVadis is considered to be a standard, or a third party that's looking at things. So I think you got kind of two things going on. You have people that are, trying to do good things, and they may just not understand, is this real impact or is this just, a show pony? And at the same time, you've got organizations that are asking you to disclose, right? United Nations Global Compact. You got to get your CEO to sign something, right? These kind of things are absolutely rising. So yeah, the potential exists there. There's always that marketing, that marketing angle. But I think the disclosures are coming up just as rapidly. Say what you do and do what you say and show us is absolutely the culture.
Excellent. Anybody got a build on that?
Sure. Thanks, Kerry. Let me just add on quickly, to the previous conversation, and then just also weigh in on that part. So I think in terms of what next, or what are the next steps, you can look at it from three perspectives. I think the first one is you can choose to build. We've seen how, for example, Dan and the team at Sutherland, they've built their model over a period of time. So that is one option that's available to the buyers. You actually start to build in the networks, the partnerships, and so on, to be able to run that on your own. The second aspect of it is you can buy, from somebody that has, for lack of a better word, an out-of-the-box kind of solution. Because there are definitely, players out there that have invested over time in terms of building viable and sustainable models, which have been proven over time. So that can also be, another avenue. The third option, which I think is really a mix of the two, is you can co-create. And this is where I believe, as OmniContact, we stand in terms of, the approach to say we can look at this, jointly, and each of our different organizations, is bringing something to the table. That way, you are able to accelerate, you are able to achieve scale, in a much faster way. And when you really think about it, it makes, I guess, good business sense for you to get involved, as an organization, as we continue to see, the inequalities that are around the world today. So for me, and based on some of the examples that we have seen, is that in most cases, especially people from marginalized backgrounds, they tend to do quite well, because when they're given an opportunity and a platform, they're there to demonstrate that they've got something to offer. They've got something that they can, bring on the table. So that would be quite critical. And to the point around social washing, it is, a risk that is there, that, this phenomenon, or this kind of practice can be misconstrued and, misused. But one of the things that I've noticed, especially when I look at it from our listed businesses, there are some specific reporting standards that you need to maintain or to meet, where there's an independent validation or auditing in terms of, your product, your practice, for example, around your ESG kind of metrics, and that can then be used as a way to, to validate, are you doing just merely greenwashing, or do you actually have, the impact to back up what you're doing? And I think as you do it over a period of time, it builds up, and it becomes part and parcel of your identity and your reputation in the marketplace.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Okay, thank you. Right, Bernard G has been waiting very patiently. So I want to go to his question very quickly, which is a little bit doom and gloom, Bernard. So here we're talking about impact sourcing, and I think your question basically says, is there going to be an outsourcing industry, let alone an impact sourcing industry, with the advent of AI like ChatGPT? So what's everyone's views on that? Is ChatGPT going to take us all out?
I think the interesting thing is not, I mean, That's a very broad question. I think if we look at sort of AI machine learning, it's actually been an opportunity for the impact sourcing part of the BPO industry, because if you look at a lot of impact sources are doing things like image annotation to help train AI. Obviously, you know, the world is going to continue to change, and there's going to be challenges that we have to face. And I think that it's, you know, the impact sourcing movement, just like the rest of the BPO industry, will have to make sure it continues to upskill its workers and engage with these opportunities rather than suffer as a result of them. Would be my take, Kerry.
Thank you.
My take on this one. Oh, go ahead, please.
Very quickly, sort of like a sentence.
No, I would say that, you know, AI makes people to be better at their jobs. So it's more like supercharging than replacing. So obviously the human element remains an integral component of that entire experience. Thanks.
Thanks.
I would say that GPT-3 and GPT Chat, OpenAI, all tools, quite intriguing, but quite rudimentary today. Very exciting because of the humanistic, passionate responses you get, right? You know, that's really, you know, creates a lot of intrigue. You probably saw New York Times, you know, somebody did something, the front page Sunday, a very ominous, you know, write-up that Chat GPT did. But I think we're quite a long ways away from that. As a colleague said, AI and RPA have been in this game. They are expected. It is no longer a people game. You can't just throw people at the problem. Enabling technologies are part of the stew. And I think the next element that you're going to see in you know, as these tools develop, will be responsible AI. That's going to be, you know, your next element to ESG. You know, maybe not quite in my career or anybody here, but down the road, responsible AI is going to be a thing. Absolutely.
Yes. And if you allow me, the pandemic taught us that all RPAs, all those automated tools are magnificent, are great, but human touch is irreplaceable 100%. And there is always going to be an opportunity for the right people, for the right talent, and in the right corners of the planet. So I believe it's going to introduce changes, but it's not going to threaten it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be driving change, and absolutely we do need, as an industry, to be looking at the ethical use of AI. So we are actually over time, but because we're recording this as well, I just want to ask one final question of everybody. So there is a global task force underway that is really looking at building a future for impact sourcing, a network of impact sourcing, best practices around impact sourcing, and commonality around impact sourcing. So if anybody is interested in getting involved in that global think tank workforce, please do get in touch with myself or email admin@gsa-uk.com. We really are looking for experienced practitioners to help us develop that best practice. But we are also really, really keen to bring on board people that want to know how to start the journey, so we can actually help them on their first steps. So regardless of your level of experience, we want you to be involved and to be working with us on this. But I want to ask each of my speakers, as their final comment, is if there's a global workforce working on the best practice and standard for impact sourcing, what would you most like to see this global workforce achieve or focus on? So one of the things for me is commonality of language. So what really defines impact sourcing, and what are the measurements to actually say that really is proper impact sourcing, rather than giving jobs to cheaper labour, for example. So I want to make sure that we've got lifelong learning and opportunity within impact sourcing. So your final comments, each of you, would be great. And who's ready to go first? Put your hand up. If not, I'll have to pick on you.
I'd probably echo what you've just said, Kerry. You know, data disclosure, a commonality of reporting that also allows for enough flexibility to recognise all the different elements that can actually have a positive impact in this area.
Thanks, Matt. Otis,
Okay.
I can see you bursting to go.
All right, sure. I think what I think can help is to also, you know, providing that standard, you know, enabling tools and support that's required basically to help people to succeed. In other words, the people that are part and parcel of this impact sourcing program, you need to find a way of creating that, you know, ideal environment for them to really, you know, produce at their best. Thanks.
Thank you, Otis. Andres?
Yeah, this is a very, I mean, a very broad subject in essence, but I believe to concentrate in the essentials, focus on youth, focus on people who are vulnerable to economic and social conditions, and pick just a few items such as those to get the starting point, but also to have the ability, because this impact sourcing changes in essence from geography to geography, from continent to continent. So there are a few different interests that need to be addressed with a local view. So perhaps to create a standardized 5-6 subjects, but have the right people to focus it on the geographies to make it more impactful, you know, in the end.
Thank you. And Dan, I think the final word will be to you.
Oh, thank you. I tried to, that's a stumper. I'm really trying to think about it from a buyer perspective for a second. And I have heard the GSA manifesto video. I've watched this thing more times than probably anybody if you check your counter there. And I believe it really at a very, very simple level. First step in my mind, I think the directory of services, who's in the game, where are they, is more important to me right now than it seems more important than the definition side of thing. I think the definition side is going to take care of itself, but I think there's a barrier to access of just knowing who's out there, what do they have as a specialty, how many people are they on standard technology. So my answer is really kind of simple. I'd like to see a service provider directory, because I think it's very hard for buyers to figure out, you know, who's there. I think they're bought in to the concept. I think access to, you know, that network is going to be important. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's what hit me in the head.
No, absolutely. It's something that the GSA has put forward in its service, in its manifesto, is to do a service provider sustainability maturity index, which obviously the S piece of ESG is so important for. So on that, thank you for your comments, Chihata, and that's a positive spin that actually AI is going to be beneficial for all the workers, impact workers around the world. So leaving on a positive note, I would like to say thank you very much to our speakers. So thank you, Otis, and really, really the best of luck with what you're doing with OmniContact. We really hope you do hit those figures for impact workers by 2030. Very ambitious. Matt and the rest of the ADEC team, thank you for sharing your story, and likewise Andreas, thank you for joining us so early from Colombia and telling us the TP story. And last but not least, Dan Lang, thank you for joining us from Sutherland, and so early in the morning for you too. We really do appreciate you sharing your stories, and let's drive this movement. This is the beginning of a lot of noise, but not just noise, a lot of transformation. So thank you all so much. Have great days. Thank you.
Thanks very much,
Thank
Kurt.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.